I'm literally absolutely starstruck on these recent reports that we've, of course, been, hearing. I'm sure most of you guys have probably heard about this by now, so me making a video on this, it is probably just putting water in the ocean at this point. But for those of you who haven't heard, there is a huge rumor that Damian Lillard could be getting traded to the Boston Celtics, and he could actually be requesting a trade there. For those of you who haven't heard about this, the Boston Celtics are a team to watch in trade talks and are probably the favourites to get Damian Lillard, sources told Evan Mace. Of course, we've heard a lot more different reports coming out, also reports saying that Damian Lillard really wants to play under Jason Kidd. Of course, the Trailblazers have said they're not going to be hiring Jason Kidd, it does look like, but the Celtics are also very, very interested in hiring Jason Kidd as their new coach, and I think this will all be the ploy to try and get Damian Lillard to the team. I genuinely think this is the closest Lillard has been to leaving the Trailblazers, and I think Trailblazers fans should be happy that their team's about to blow up, because honestly, this team is not going anywhere. I cannot see the Trailblazers, really doing anything for quite a while, and I think fans have started to realize this, even though it is a little bit hard, but hey, I think Lillard and McCollum and that their value is probably the highest it's been for quite a while. You got to test the market, see what you can get, maybe try and start a rebuild. And again, I think Damian Lillard, it's only a matter of time till he requests the trade. I think if the Boston Celtics hire Jason Kidd, they will try and trade for Damian Lillard, and I think Damian Lillard will probably request a trade there. There's also a lot of evidence to support this, even with Kemba Walker reportedly requesting a trade, and pretty much saying he doesn't care what team he gets traded to. So if I was the Trailblazers, I'd be sketching up a plan right now, and I'd be taking notes from what OKC did a couple years ago. Basically, if you didn't know what OKC did, was they traded a bunch of players away, and of course brought in some older players that were, kind of, I don't want to say washed, because I guess that's what a lot of people thought Chris Paul was at the time, and of course they brought in a bunch of picks. And then they eventually, revitalized Steven Adams' career. They revitalized Chris Paul, Danilo Gallinari, and turned SGA into a star. Dennis Schroeder as well kept doing what he does best. And they all ended up getting traded, and they got heaps of picks, and that was that. If I was the Portland Trailblazers, though, and if I was getting offered heaps of picks, a couple of role players, and Kemba Walker for Damian Lillard, I'd probably take that, because there is a chance, if Kemba Walker gets back to what he does best, which I think he will, because right now on the Celtics, it's clear that Kemba doesn't fit in because he's mainly a shot creator. And the Celtics already have two shot creators in Jaylen Brown and, of course, Jason Tatum. They really need a playmaker. And Kemba Walker's just not that playmaker for the team. So if he can go back to being the number one shot creator, which is what he was on the Charlotte Hornets, I could definitely see him revitalize his career at the Portland Trailblazers, which means, who knows, the Trailblazers might be able to trade him for a first-round pick and a young player, just like pretty much what they got out of, what OKC got out of Chris Paul. So again, if you can trade, who knows, McCollum, get a couple of late first-round picks out of him, get maybe a young player or two, and then, of course, Damian Lillard, I think what the Celtics will offer, because I 100% think the Celtics are trading for Damian Lillard very, very soon. I think the Celtics can give you some very nice young players like Naismith, who is, I think, one of the most underrated players in the draft. I think when he gets a bigger role, he can be a really nice player. Of course, Romeo Langford hasn't exactly been able to do what he probably knows he can do. I think he'd be thrown into the trade. I think a player like Carson Edwards, who hasn't really had an opportunity, I think he'd be thrown into the trade. Probably those three young players, and then, of course, Kemba Walker to match up salaries. Now, here's where it becomes interesting. I think the Celtics will have to trade up 3 to 4 first-round picks. If James Harden was worth like 8 first-round picks, I think it's pretty damn obvious that that Lillard will be worth probably more than 4. But again, I think the young players that the Trailblazers might be getting back in this deal would be better than what, of course, the Rockets did. They only got Oladipo and, like, Kelly Olynyk out of all of these multiple deals they ended up performing. While I do think that the Trailblazers will be able to get a really nice rotation of players. Of course, Romeo Langford will probably start for them next season if they trade away of course, McCollum. If they let Jones walk, which is what they're apparently going to be doing, they're apparently going to be trading Covington. I could see Naismith starting, and I think Campbell will be starting. So I think those 3 former Celtics would straight away probably come into this starting lineup. Plus 4 future first-round picks. That'd be really cool. If you think about it, though, no one would be taking away from Kemba when it does come to scoring. And they could build, like, actually a really nice team, similar to how, of course, OKC did it not so long ago. You know, the Trailblazers could roll out. If they bring back Norman Powell, I think they'll offer him money. He probably can't refuse. So, actually, he might start at small forward again. I think Nurkic and that will all get traded. But for some reason, I just think if Powell, you know, gets a huge offer, then he will be back with this team. Like, Trailblazers will be able to offer him money, probably can't refuse. So, I could see, and they're not just going to want to let him walk in free agency. So, I could see maybe, who knows, Kemba at point guard, maybe, like, I'd say Powell at shooting guard, Naismith probably at small forward, and then, of course, you'd have, like, Langford and whoever else you go and sign free agency, a bunch of players that, of course, pick. While if we look at the Boston Celtics side of things, the Boston Celtics finally bring in a playmaker who doesn't need the ball to be great. Damian Lillard can literally play off ball from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown's, you know, shot creations and what they want to do with it. And I could still see him being an absolute beast. Of course, they'd bring back Fournier. I'm sure they'd be able to keep Smart. Williams would probably back with the team. Thompson as well. I think Jabari Parker did some good stuff for their team, and they'll probably want to bring him in as a rotational piece. So you could probably see, like, Lillard at point guard. Of course, Fournier at shooting guard, Jaylen Brown at small forward, Tatum at power forward, and then your center would be Robert Williams. Off the bench, you probably have Pritchard, Thompson, Jabari Parker, Grant Williams, and whoever else they go and sign them, you know, as well as Marcus Smart. If they get all their players' bodies right, I could see that team competing. They'd have 3 elite all-stars in Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Damian Lillard, plus a bunch of good role players like Robert Williams and Evan Fournier and Marcus Smart. That would be a really cool team. Plus a new coach in Jason Kidd, who I still think could have some potential maybe in the league as an alright coach. I guess we'll have to see how, of course, that all does go and unfold, I suppose. But it will be really, really cool to see. In my opinion, I think they will be the favourites to get Damian Lillard right now. And I think if Damian Lillard requests a trade, it will be to the Boston Celtics. And I genuinely think there's a huge chance right now that Damian Lillard is getting traded to the Boston Celtics. If they sign Jason Kidd, that is like a big thing. Like, Damian Lillard literally said he wants to play under Jason Kidd, and the Celtics so happen to be the leading team to get him. Plus, they have all this cap space to move with because Fournier's a free agent. Plus, they could be trading, you know, Kemba away. And again, a team that has, you know, they've literally brought in, like, new players all of a sudden. Like, look, they didn't do good in the playoffs. That was because Brown was injured. But literally, they've brought in Fournier, who's practically new. I think Robert Williams is pretty much new because he's practically a new reinvented player who will for sure be starting next season. So you basically got 2 new players in there. Jaylen Brown, who'll basically be new to this team now that he's been injured for quite a while. Marcus Smart's had a bunch of injuries as well. And then you got Damian Lillard, who comes into this team too. You basically bring in a couple of all-stars and a couple of really good role players who haven't played for the Celtics in the last, you know, 30 games or whatever, or have never played for the Celtics, or have barely played for the Celtics. That is how I see it. It will be a completely different team to what it was last year, because of course Brown missed a lot of time towards the end of the season. Smart missed time throughout the whole year. They get in an all-star point guard. It's going to be an absolutely crazy team if they can make this work. Of course, I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for the latest NBA content and NBA news. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to my gaming channel, MIRO/vlogging channels. Don't forget to check out my podcast as well if you haven't already, which I will link all of them in the description down below. But as I was saying, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.